Hello and welcome to The Food That Makes Us, recipes that comfort and connect us, with me, Olya Hercules, here in my kitchen. And today we're going to make something super exciting, a little bit of a project, but actually not that taxing at all. Remember, we've already made the chicken broth and you've got it either in your freezer or, I already got it out. It's in my pot here. And we're going to make dumplings, and we're going to cook the dumplings in the broth. We're going to serve the dumplings with the broth and loads of herbs, and it's going to be all saffrony and really tasty. One note, if you don't have the chicken broth, but you really want to make the dumplings, they also work just as dumplings, like served with some garlic yogurt and a little bit of brown butter or whatever. It's just a good thing, whatever you want to do with it. We're gonna make the dough, which is really simple. It's gonna have eggs, water, and either Italian flour, double O flour, or plain flour, whatever you want to use. And for the filling, we're gonna have lamb and diced onion, a bit of barberry, salt, coriander, cumin. The inspiration comes from Azerbaijani Dyushbara dumplings, which are usually cooked in a broth and served with all of these amazing herbs, and also some grated garlic and vinegar just to add a little bit of acidity. I mean, it's just such a beautiful thing. And imagine, you've got your broth, you've got your dumplings, you serve them on a plate in front of your guests, and then you've got all of these little different herbs, like I've got Thai basil, I've got dill, I've got coriander, mint, all in different pots, and then it's like DIY flavoring. So it's very simple in the broth and the dumplings, and then you put little bits in and season it to kind of like your taste. Although, to be honest with you, I'd advise to put it all in because it's all going to be delicious. Okay, let's make the dough. So now we're going to make the dumpling dough. Per each egg, I've put 15 mils of water in. So there's 30 mils of water in there. I'm going to break my egg and put it in. Get this out. Just like that. And then I'm just going to give it, break up the eggs with a fork, basically. So just And look, I know in Italy, there's this thing where they have the dry flour and then they put the wet ingredients in and kind of incorporate that way. I don't know. This is the way we do it in Ukraine, and that's the way that I'm used to making dumpling dough. Okay, so I've got my wet ingredients. I'm not going to put any salt in because I find that it dries your pasta dough out. It's going to be seasoned within the beautifully seasoned chicken broth, so that's all fine. So I've broken up the eggs, and here I've got just under 300 grams of flour. So 280, I think. And then I'm gonna work with my fork and just incorporate it. And people are really scared of dumpling dough. They just say oh, I just don't know what to do with it, and then it looks really rough, and it's such a pain to kind of knead it for ages. That's because what helps is to, as always, I'm always going on about the hydration thing, but it's always good for the flour to get hydrated properly. So basically, you just have to let it be for literally half an hour. Even 15 minutes will do wonders if you're in a rush. But look, so I got in there with my hand, and I'm just kind of there's some wet bits here, so I'm just collecting them. I'm just smooshing them into those dry bits of flour. It's all coming together really nicely. I'm just gonna keep kind of kneading it a little bit, but then once I feel it's becoming a bit dry, I might leave some little bits of flour in there. I mean, it worked out quite well. Then I'm gonna put it on the surface, and I'm gonna give it literally just a quick knead to make sure that there are no dry pockets of flour. But I'm not going to go to town. Like, I'm not going to try and make it smooth now, because that's not going to happen. Like, it needs to chill for a bit. That's it. So I'm just gonna, it looks rough as hell, and I'm gonna leave it here, so you will see within 15 minutes what's gonna happen to it. I'm just gonna give it a little knead and you're gonna see. So I'm gonna cover this with cling film, and we're gonna check on this dough in about 15 minutes, and you're gonna see how miraculously it's going to get smooth. But right now, I've already made a dough last night, and which is to show you again that you can do this in advance. You can make your dough the night before, or and keep it in the fridge covered, or you can make it a week before and keep it frozen and then just thaw it. Like, it's, you know, but also how quick was that? Like, it's pretty much there, it's done. We just need to cover it and let it rest. Okay, so I've got my pre-minced lamb. Get as fatty as you can, because that's fat with flavor. And then I finely diced, but actually, you know, sometimes I also just grate the onion on the rough side of the grater, which is a bit easier. And the proportion is, you almost want as much onion as there is meat. Then for this amount, which altogether is, you know, about 450 grams or so, I'm gonna do a teaspoon of salt. Like, you want it to be nicely seasoned. That should do it. And then I've got my spices here, which is coriander and cumin, which has been toasted and ground. Okay, that's it. Just like a delicate. You don't have to go to town with spices here, because you're gonna get all of the flavor from, you know, the Thai basil and the dill and mint and all of these things that are going to flavor the broth at the table. So this, a little bit of gentle coriander and cumin, is really nice. Then I'm going to add, and my barberries, I've got barberries here. So these are already quite soft. If yours feel super, super dry, put some hot water over them and let them soak for about 5 minutes, just to kind of like rehydrate them a little bit. But mine are already, yeah, quite, like, they feel quite soft. And I'm just gonna put, like, you know, a couple of spoonfuls in there, just like that. Then another thing that I like to put into my Dyushbara filling is, you know, we're gonna use the leaves later, but I'm also going to use some coriander stems. Yeah. So maybe, like, get rid of the dry bits at the end, and then just finely chop them up. This is not a necessary move, but I enjoy it, and I feel like it's a really nice way to use your coriander stalks. You can also play around and use other herbs that you like, but I feel like coriander really works with the coriander seed and the cumin in the filling. So get rid of that. And, you know, voila, like, our filling for the dumplings is pretty much done. So I'm just gonna give it, try not to, I know it feels like weird and you'd really want to mush it all together, but try not to, because I feel like if it's pre-minced lamb, it becomes a bit sausagey inside of the, you know, like, it becomes too tight and, like, I can't find another word, like, it just feels a bit sausagey inside, and I don't want it to feel sausagey. I want it to be like a really nice filling. It's the end of the day, so I'm running out of words, okay? Don't make it too sausagey. It's not like people, you know, you would massage mince really well together if you were making a kebab or something, like when you want the proteins to, like, join together and make this, like, really rigid sausagey thing, like a kebab. But here we don't. So I'm just gonna grab my, so this dough is relaxing. It needs another 10 minutes. We're doing this one in real time. And then I've got the one that I made last night, and I'm just gonna put it here. Okay, so I've got my super relaxed dough from last night. I've got, usually I use semolina, but I can't find it, and a little bit of polenta is fine. It's literally So when you can put the dumplings there and they can chill and not get stuck to anything, okay? So a bit of fine, kind of like polenta on a tray, and have a clean towel at the ready, just so you cover the dumplings whilst you work so they don't dry out. Okay, so this is here. I've got my area here. I've got a little bit of flour to put over my surface so the dough doesn't get stuck. Normally with dumplings, I would form kind of like a sausage, then cut bits off and then roll each one individually. But for Dyushbara, I find that, so look how smooth that is. So that's nice and smooth there, just like that. For Dyushbara, I find that rolling it out into a thin sheet is really nice. And then you just kind of like cut it into squares and you do the thing quite quickly. Because also they're very small dumplings, so if you had to like roll out each piece each time, it's just going to be a pain in the behind. What I am going to do is grab my knife and I'm just going to cut the dough in two, so it's a bit easier to roll out, you know. So we'll do one by one. I'm going to keep this one covered in a little cloth so it doesn't dry out. Just like that. That's nice. And then I'm going to form this piece into kind of like a big puck. Just like this. And then, got a little bit stuck, so just like get this off. That's fine. And then I'm gonna flour the surface generously with, so rolling pin, and then no kind of like particular technique here. We're just gonna rotate it a little bit and just go up and down. If you are kind of familiar with a pasta machine and that's what you want to do, please go ahead, like nobody's gonna judge you. Do the pasta machine, or if you've got like an electric one that attaches to your mixer or whatever, that's even better, I think. But doing it by hand is actually really nice. It releases stress. It's meditative, and arguably it's also a nicer result. That's what they say. Because, I don't know, there's more irregularities. They're like little bits of bubbles and air stuck, almost like when you're making a bread. So, and also it's really good exercise. So even with the relaxed dough, I am putting a little bit of effort into it, you know? But it's fine, like it's not stressful at all. In fact, it's the opposite. So now look what I'm doing. I said there's no technique, but actually there is a little bit of a technique. So now what I'm doing is I'm putting more pressure on the edges here. So just to kind of like speed things along a little bit. So I'm rotating the dough and then I'm rolling out the edges a bit, and then I'm gonna go back in the middle in a second. Okay? And then I'm gonna go like this. And I mean, loads of Caucasus and Central Asian dumplings are actually quite robust. They're not, it's like super, super thin, but with Dyushbara, I feel like they do need to be, you do need to roll out the dough pretty thin for them to be really delicate and nice. Okay, so the first half of the dough has been rolled out. This is all I have the energy for today, and it's gonna be fine. So, it's almost like becoming, it's nice and delicate, but it's not completely see-through, which also you don't want it to be, because you've got like a raw kind of like meat filling. It needs a bit of a kind of like nice coat on to cook well. Right, so we've put the salt in, we've got all of our like stuff here. I'm just gonna grab my knife and I'm gonna cut. These are quite small dumplings. Like Dyushbara are known for being super tiny. There is even a saying, like in Azerbaijan, not a saying, but this concept that if you can fit like 10 or even more of these little dumplings on a tablespoon, that shows like how skillful the woman was that made them. But actually, it's a pain in the ass to do like such tiny ones. And I always feel like there just isn't enough filling inside. So we're gonna like go jumbo Dyushbara, so it's bigger than what you're supposed to, but still small. And what I'm gonna do you want me to go from here? I'm just gonna cut strips. First the first strips, and then we're gonna cut it into kind of like squares. Okay, like this. I once served these at the Carousel restaurant in, well, what used to be in Marylebone. And imagine there was like a week dinner with 50 people for lunch and 50 people for dinner. So that's 100 people a day. And I made these dumplings for everyone in the broth. That was insane. We had to make thousands of dumplings on a Monday. So by the time that you get to that point, like you get what I call a dumpling neck, because you're literally like that, just like making them. So maybe don't make thousands, but making quite a few is worth it because you can freeze them, and then that's an investment to your future lunches, dinner, parties, or whatever else. Okay, so we've got these strips here. I've got a couple of pieces of dough that are a bit loose, but I can just put them in the broth and, eat fine. You don't throw them away. You can just do something with them. And then I'm just going to cut these squares. Again, maybe some of it is going to be like a bit unusable. So I'm just going to also, in Ukraine, and maybe I'll trim these ones. So we've got quite a few of these little bits, but that's fine. Like in Ukraine, we call them varenichki, which means little boiled ones, like little vareniki. The rest of it should be pretty good to use. Not this guy. And just like that. Okay, so little squares, but maybe not as little as some Dyushbara can be. And again. Okay, and one more time. Anything that you can't fill, put to the side, and as I say, you just drop them in the broth and serve them yourself or to yourself or whatever. So here we've got pretty good squares that I'm happy to use. And I've got my little spoon. And I mean, they're really like a little tortellini really, but one thing that I do, and then you put it, so don't pack it in. Remember sausagey? We don't want sausagey. And then you just if you put all of your fillings or almost all of your fillings in and then do the next step and shape, that helps. Like that's what we would do in a catering kind of situation. So I'm just gonna put the filling in and then I'm gonna show you how to shape. Okay, so I've got them all kind of like laid out. And then I'm just gonna have like a little bit of water here just to help it because it's quite a, firm dough. And then I'm just gonna flip it over and pinch, 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 pinch. And kind of like, it's gonna look like a little triangle, just like this. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to join these ends, but the way that I like to join them is just like this. So you've got so it does look like a tortellini, maybe a little bit of water here as well, just to make it stick. And then you've got like a little fishtail almost. See? I just think they look so cute with this little fishtail situation happening here. Let's do another one. So again, just a little bit of water, and then I'm going to, arguably I have overfilled them and I've been too greedy. So if it's your first time, maybe put a little bit less filling than that. But you can always kind of just like shove it in and pinch, 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 pinch. And you've got a nice cute triangle, and then you join these ends and just kind of like pinch them together, creating this little fishtail. Just like that. And you've got these gorgeous little dumplings. And one more time. So I've got just a tiny bit of water around here, and then I'm gonna close it and pinch the edges together. Okay, just like that, and then wet this bit a tiny bit, and then bring these together. Pinch like that into a little fishtail, and keep going. Oh, this one got undone. Stick, stick, why are you not sticking? That's fine. Okay, and then
Mama, I love you.
okay, well now we're gonna cut it.
Mama, I care.
Okay, we're cutting this out. We're cutting.
Mama,
We really don't have time for this today. Like, look, it's getting dark outside. Okay, so Joe has kindly helped us with the herbs. So we had some dill, some mint, some coriander, some Thai basil. They're all like super nice, delicious things that will go in the broth. And, you know, that's that. And then another thing that we're going to do to go on the table is we're going to grate, so, you know, my favorite move, grating garlic. I'm going to grate the garlic and put it into a little bowl. There it is. And then I'm going to put a little bit of this really nice raw cider vinegar, but like use whatever mild vinegar you have, just to add this kind of like a little bit of acidity and a spike from the raw garlic into your broth. So like a teaspoon each or something into each bowl will be nice, but everybody can do it themselves. Like that's the fun thing of this whole situation. Okay, so we've got our herbs, we've got our garlic and vinegar and everything ready for the table. And now I'm going to flavor the chicken stock with a little bit of saffron. So I'm just gonna this time I'm not gonna soak it or do anything like, oh, oops, let's get that out. I'm just gonna put it in the pestle and mortar, add some salt, put a little bit more in, then give it a grind, and then this kind of like saffrony salt is going to go into our hot broth. And, you know, I'm not going to bother with any extra vegetables for the broth. It's literally going to be this pure, like, beautiful, clear thing. So it's going to be chicken broth with the saffron, and we're going to cook the dumplings in it, and that's it. And we're going to serve it, and all of the flavor is going to come from all of the herbs and the vinegar. Okay, let's put the salt and saffron into the broth. So here's our chicken stock slash, you know, poached chicken poaching liquid. And I'm just going to put this saffron in, and it's going to give the broth a really beautiful color immediately and smells delicious. That's it. I'm just gonna, sorry, I am just gonna give it a little stir. I mean, this color is just boom, amazing. And then I've got my little dumplings that I've prepared. Again, as I say, you can make them all up, freeze them and cook them from frozen. The cooked from fresh, they're gonna take about 5-6 minutes because they are quite small. You can always take one out, cut it in half, make sure that the meat is made, and that's it. And if they're from frozen, they're gonna take a couple of extra minutes. So I'm just gonna like literally drop them in. So the dumplings go in. So you can have all of this kind of like prepped in advance. You can have your saffron, your broth waiting there. You can have your dumplings in the freezer. And then all you have to do is literally just heat up the stock, take the dumplings out of the freezer, and put some herbs in some bowls. But you've got this beautiful starter if you're doing like a dinner party or something like that. I mean, although this is also good just whenever you want it, like during the week. Don't forget about the little cut off bits. Like they're nice. It's just like pieces of pasta and it's fine. I'm just gonna drop them in as well. That's it. They're gonna take about 5 minutes. I'm gonna put a timer on and then we're gonna serve it, and it's just the most delicious thing. Okay, a quick tip. When you drop your dumplings in, just give it kind of like a swirl and a scrape, just in case sometimes they sink to the bottom and get stuck to the bottom of the pan, okay? So just like give them a swirl, and you know, we're nearly there. Just a couple of minutes left and they're gonna be done. I can't wait to eat this. Okay, the dumplings are cooked. It smells completely divine. And they're all floating on top. But as I say, you can always cut one in the middle and make sure that the meat is cooked through, but it's been like 6.5 minutes, so that's all good. So what I'm gonna do is, I haven't cooked all of the dumplings, by the way. I'm just doing as much as I need for today. The rest of them are going into the freezer for another day. And we've got all of our little like DIY flavor bombs ready. And then what I'm gonna do is take like a really nice plate and I'm gonna serve, look at that color. I mean, look at this. Woo-hoo-hoo. You can either give 3 per person, because odd numbers look nice, or a more generous and, you know, nicer thing to do is to give each person 5. And then you take it to the table. All of these things are around the table. Then you just explain things like, this is tarragon, this is coriander, this is mint, Thai basil or normal basil, purple basil, whatever you can find. Dill, of course, always dill. And then a little bit of your garlicky vinegar. And then people just go like this. They just go a little bit of vinegar, roll up, a little bit of coriander, a little bit of mint, some tarragon, some basil, some dill. I mean, you're creating your own beautiful little situation here, no? And then some sumac. I mean, what do you reckon, Kai?
Looks incredible.
It's good, right?
It's a word of art, that.
And then you grab a spoon and, you know, you give it a little stir. All of those herbs are going in and flavoring your beautiful stock. Your dumplings are looking so cute and yellow from all of that saffron. And simple, delicious, can be made in advance. Can be made vegetarian, and if you are vegetarian, I have given you a vegetarian version of it with a vegetarian filling. So, you know, it's a win-win. It's delicate and delicious and, you know, multi-layered with that flavor. A little bit of garlic comes through, just a tiny bit of acidity from the vinegar. The saffron is really fragrant and musky in a really good way. And of course, all the herbs, like, it's just gorgeous. I cannot recommend making this enough. May have a dumpling. Hot.
The dumpling dance.
But so good with that lamb. Tiny bit of the acidity from the barberry. The coriander and the cumin are coming through now, and it's just like a complete situation. It's just so good.